Hi, welcome to a short narrated PowerPoint covering copyright issues. A brief presentation, and it's about looking at when you're employing video in your lectures, what are some of the copyright issues, what are some of the resources available to you to tackle those. It's equally useful for Mac and PC users. The most common thing that you want to use will be commercial video products. DVDs are fine to play inside your lecture. You're definitely covered by the copyright policy of the university. However, ripping the DVD for backup does have two very distinct differences. If the DVD belongs to the university, then it's totally against the copyright policy to rip that DVD, just for the sake of the convenience of having a digital file. If it's your own, then and you're simply backing it up for the sake of keeping a master and then using a copy in your day-to-day lecturing material, then that's a grey area because you're actually just backing up your own possession. Occasionally there's issues playing a region lock disc as well, which is another big driver for why people are trying to rip the DVD and get the movie off it. You can play recordings of off-air broadcasts, and that's covered also by the copyright policy of the university. And it's very common now to find video that's been made available for download. You'll prominently see a download button, which means the creators of those videos, while they're not giving away any copyright rights, they are expecting that you'll download it and use it in some other way. You'll consume it somewhere else. And so if you show that in your lectures, and if you provide links to that so your students can then download, that's of course okay, and it's encouraged. It's pretty common now that people would like to use streaming video or online video in their lectures or in their LMS. The most common one is YouTube, but there are definitely other big sites like Dailymotion, French one. Vimeo is very prominent now. Even Facebook is a pretty large repository of online video. From a copyright perspective, it's all about identifying what's a legitimate source. So sometimes it's very obvious. You've gone to the ABC website or you've gone to the BBC website. So you can tell from the URL that you're dealing with the actual source of the material. It's not someone who's copied it and then re-uploaded it. However, with YouTube, there is definitely that question mark on many pieces of video. So some of the telltale signs for is this the legitimate source are the advertising. If it's surrounded by high quality advertising, big brand advertisers, if you can see that it's a channel and that it's a high quality video, if you can look at the URL and see is the artist's name in there perhaps, and is there a brand prominently showing, then all these are pretty good indicators that you're dealing with a legitimate source. If you can't see any of that, then the owner of that material can still opt for Google to leave it up on the site. So this is a technology called Content ID. They can either take it down or they can monetize it, which means they share in the advertising revenue. iTunes is the other big repository of online video. It's played out in a different way because you have to call it up, you have to request it rather than find it in a big database. So they're not advertising to you in the same way. But certainly it's a legitimate source of video. Now when you're using video, you've got to consider it as either linking versus embedding. So within the LMS, they always say, as a rule of thumb, the Copyright Office says this, link to it rather than download it and embed it, because you're just playing safe and you're being on the right side of the copyright policy by doing that. If you're in the lecture theatre, it's not always so cut and dried. You do have internet access in almost all of the lecture theatres now, but if you don't want to rely on that, you can actually download some pieces of video and you still use them legally, correctly, by embedding them into your PowerPoint or indeed into your Prezi, which is an online tool in itself. The University of Melbourne has a copyright office, and they can help you out by registering your material, or they can seek permission on your behalf. And of course, if you've got any question marks, they can give you the best advice. They can give you the definitive advice. But your obligation is to always be working towards the best practice. So properly citing your video assets, using only legitimate sources, linking where possible, but always respecting this idea of intellectual property. We live in a society where lots of media is created for a commercial venture, and people expect that their copyright will be respected, and in particular an institution like a university should definitely be working towards always finding a legal way to do it. You can contact the library liaison. There's one set up for every discipline to develop the collection, which basically means introduce new discs. You can have discs bought for you if it's something that you're expecting your students to study on. You can have it added to the library. Digital files can also be made available in the digital repository, so you can possibly stream them directly to your LMS site. If you're recording at home from Foxtel or from any of the commercial channels, whether it's news, international news, movies, TV series, if you want to record them, you can then freely present them in your lectures. You'll often need to convert the video file, so what that means is it might be some exotic form of video that doesn't easily play back when you come into the university setting and you find yourself in front of an iMac at a lectern. So you can then get some conversion software and some tuition, and the details are there. You can phone ITS to arrange an installation. You can also find off-air broadcasts. So many items that are shown on TV are instantly available for either streaming or on disc. But there's two examples here of streaming services which are now focused on providing video as a stream, specifically for an educational purpose. And the university subscribes to both of them, so a couple of big databases that you can look through.